announcements on the back of your order of service, but not everybody sees the announcements on the back, so I thought I'd run through some of them real quick beforehand. If you'll notice at the bottom, it says March 1st for Sunday morning service at 10 a.m. No. That's March 5th. You might want to change that. Typo there. So we have a new artist in the Tombaugh Gallery, Songfinger, originally from South Korea. You might want to check that out. She'll be here through February 26th. What's that?
Today's the last day, she said.
Today's her last day? Yeah. Oh. Okay then. Well, that was a good one. And we have a multicultural meeting on the 26th. That would be today at 3:30. And then tomorrow, the Climate Action Group meets at 7 p.m. It's a Zoom. They always like to have more people attending that. And then we have a community roundup on Thursdays. I think that's getting more and more well attended, isn't it? Yeah. I think that's enough for announcements. Unless I'm forgetting somebody. Okay. Hospitality. You wanted me to mention that? I'll say them later. But announcement. Hospitality will be inside in the RE Great Room today due to the windy conditions that are coming pretty soon. They aren't here yet. Did somebody want to make announcements about auctions today? I know somebody left one of the auction donation forms up here. They're wanting to have those in by, can somebody tell me the deadline date? By the 19th. Okay. Anything more to be said there?
By request.
Sort of quieted everybody. Okay.
Good morning. It's good to be with you today. Before we begin, let's put our phones in worship mode. I almost said telephones, and I think most people younger than me wouldn't even know what I'm saying. Let's sing together. I invite you to rise in body or spirit to sing number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. And the words will be on the monitor.
Good morning. And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces. We welcome those of you who are in our sanctuary this morning, especially the children, and those who are joining us via Zoom. I'm Mark Sukontarak, your service associate. Our service leader is Reverend Munro Sickafoose. Our music director is Catherine Massey. Assisting us are Elwin Nunn on camera, Mike Gasco on audio, and Claire Neal Wallace on Zoom. Our greeters are Lisa Peterson, Jack Welch, and Gail Trantham. Hospitality is offered by Richens Covenant Group. We are all delighted to be with you today. Do we have any visitors here in the sanctuary this morning? Oh, there you go. I've met you before.
Right, I'm not really that much of a visitor. Good morning, I'm Jane Harris. I am Jean Gilbert's sister. I'm visiting this week kind of via Green Valley, Arizona. And I've been here before. It's great being back. Thank you.
Good morning. Did I miss anybody? Okay. Okay, do we have any visitors on Zoom, Claire? No visitors on Zoom. Okay. Thank you. We're very pleased that you have joined us. Please fill out a visitor's card, even if you did not stand up to introduce yourself, so we can invite you to other services and activities at the church. You may be able to find a visitor's card on the back of the seat in front of you, or a greeter can give you one. If you're on Zoom, you can leave your email in the Zoom chat box. And please join us after this service for some coffee and conversation inside the RE building just down the breezeway, or stay on Zoom for chat rooms.
Thank you, Mark. It's nice to be part of a community that holds each other up with laughter. Good laughter, supportive laughter. So we're here to call the circle and begin our time together. But I'm always aware that the circle is never complete because we're missing so many. So I'd like to call them in and invite you to imagine them here with us. And I'd like to call in our ancestors, those who came before us, who made the way for us. All of our ancestors. And I'd like to call in all the other children of the earth, our relatives, the winged ones and the four-leggeds, and the tree nations and the grass nations, and all the green nations that seek the sun. And I'd like to call in the reptiles and the insects, the creepy crawlies, those who skitter around, and the water life, the fish and the cetaceans, the plankton, and all those who live in all the waters of the world. And all the tiny life that we can't see that holds the web of life together. And all those other children of the earth whose names are too numerous to mention in these few breaths. And I'd like to invite in the spirits of those to come, of whatever nation and ancestry, those that we prepare the way for. And I invite them to be with us here during this time. May it be so.
It's time for the chalice lighting. For all the wonder and inspiration we seek from sun and stars, and all the lights of the heavens, we light this chalice. That's All the Lights of the Heavens by Cynthia Landrum. Please rise in body or spirit to join me in saying our church's affirmation of covenant and singing the doxology in English and Spanish. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another.
Good morning, church. Happy Sunday. Today's Time for All Ages is titled A Tour of the Heavens. Clyde Tombaugh Discovers Pluto, which I'm sure, as you all know, means a lot to us. So. Clyde had finished his farm chores. Now he was free to spend the rest of the evening doing his favorite thing, stargazing. He got out his telescope and he looked up into the night sky. While he looked at the moon and the stars, he wondered about the universe. Does any other planet have life? Are there aliens out there somewhere? If they are they friendly or dangerous? How could we communicate with them? What are they like? How far away are the stars and planets? Will anyone ever be able to travel in space? Could we live on another planet? What would it be like to walk on the moon? Why does Mars look reddish? What makes a shooting star streak across the sky? Why do the planets circle around the sun? Clyde was filled with curiosity and questions. The telescope he had wasn't strong enough to get him answers. He wanted to see more, to see things more clearly. He decided to build his own telescope. He searched his parents' farm for old pieces of machinery that he could use. He painstakingly ground mirrors for their reflective powers. His father let him have a shaft from his car. With these materials, Clyde made himself a powerful telescope. Now he could see much detail when he watched the planets. He drew pictures of what he saw, but he still wanted to know more. So he sent his drawings of Jupiter and Mars to some astronomers. He hoped they would give him some information. Instead, they were so impressed with his pictures that even though Clyde had not gone to college yet, they offered him a job. Another scientist, Percival Lowell, was sure there was another planet farther away from the Earth than Neptune. But so far, no one had been able to find it. Clyde went to New Mexico. He spent every night in an unheated observatory looking through the telescope for planet X and taking pictures of the sky. Through the long, cold nights, Clyde tried to glimpse a new planet. Later in his life, he liked to say, "I've really had a tour of the heavens." Finally, when he was 24 years old, Clyde took a photograph of the night sky that showed a strange shifting of light. There was a planet beyond Neptune. He had found planet X. The new planet was named Pluto for the Roman god of the underworld. All his life, Clyde loved learning about the universe. Over the years, he discovered more than 100 asteroids, a comet, and a supercluster of galaxies. He thought exploring and learning were so important that he became an astronomy teacher. He helped other people investigate the sky, sometimes using the huge 2-story telescope he had built in his own backyard. And he loved learning so much that he and his wife helped to start a Unitarian Universalist church. A very good place for seeking truth. And he loved learning so much that he and his wife helped to start a Clyde died a very old man in 1997. But our story does not end there. You see, now scientists have decided Pluto isn't really a planet after all. Okay. New telescopes see much more detail than even Clyde's most powerful telescope could ever see. We now know that there are many objects in space about the same size as Pluto. Could there really be dozens and dozens more planets? Or are these smaller objects something else? The scientists voted and agreed on 3 rules to determine whether an object in space is a planet. It has to orbit around the sun. It must be large enough that its surface becomes smooth and round. And it must be large enough to clear other objects out of its orbit. Pluto does not meet these new rules. It's too small. Percival had been curious to find planet X. Because of his questions, Clyde Tombaugh was hired to search the night sky. When Clyde discovered Pluto, everyone thought it was a planet. Then new telescopes showed us many other objects like Pluto, and scientists made a new category, dwarf planet. Clyde's wife, Patricia, said Clyde would have been disappointed about the vote, but as a scientist, he would have understood. When we seek the truth, it feels good to make discoveries and find answers. But Clyde knew what's most important is to keep asking questions. Thank you.
Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing number 131 from the hymnal, Love Will Guide Us. And it's also going to be up here.
Love will
One of the ways we support one another in community is through sharing of joys, sorrows, and milestones. In these challenging times, it's crucial that we make attempts to stay connected to one another. If you have a joy, sorrow, or milestone you'd like to share with the congregation this morning, please raise your hand and I'll bring the mic to you. State your name and what is in your heart. If you're on Zoom, you can put your joy, sorrow, or milestone in the chat box. Are there any joys, sorrows, or milestones this morning?
Hi, I'm Rabbit Loring. After 6 months of waiting for this to happen, my parents have finally moved to Las Cruces. They're living at Good Sam's, and they've made a lot of friends, mostly from this church. And they are not UUs, but maybe I can get them to come visit.
Hi, I guess I have a milestone. My name is Jody Natchison. My husband has had serious surgery, and he was in the hospital for severe spinal stenosis, and then they doped him close to Pluto, where he really wasn't conscious for days and days, and they told me he wasn't going to make it in terms of retaining his consciousness. But he's back. A dubious distinction, but he's back. And I'm going to visit him later, and I want to thank people here who've been very supportive and very helpful. And also, today is our 52nd anniversary, so I'm going to bring him lots of things that aren't good for him. Okay.
Good morning, I'm Jack Welch. Our family celebrated a very important milestone a couple of days ago. It was the 2-year anniversary when my wife Gail was helicoptered to Albuquerque, and we didn't know if she would come back. Well, she came back stronger than ever, and 2 days ago was the 2-year anniversary. And she received much support from the people in this congregation.
Good morning. I'm Tom Packard. 2 of my favorite hobbies are on display in this beautiful city of the Crosses. One is at the Brannigan Memorial Library. There's a book sale there today from 1 to 3. The books are today at $5 for a bag of books, if you can believe that. My other hobby is gem and minerals, and over at the Farm and Ranch there is a gem and mineral show today. And really wonderful specimens. Hope you can go.
Did I miss somebody here too? Okay.
Good morning. My name is Jan Thompson. Many of you know that for a few months I had a young man from Afghanistan living with me. And in early December, he moved to Kentucky. Well, he wants to come back. So I think that's a compliment. I'm not sure. I must admit, I was relieved when he left because he has not learned English, and we had great difficulty communicating. And that caused problems, for me at least. And now he's coming back, and I'm not sure if I like this or not. But he's welcome.
My name's Margaret Keeney. Ray and I received a very sad news this morning, and maybe hopeful news at the same time. You may remember that the Bagbies were here 2 weeks ago, I believe. It's a very, very short time. Within that Sunday and the following Friday, he went back to Pennsylvania And we just, oh, I'm sorry, Ohio. Yeah, thank you. Please, do correct me. And I received an email this morning from Lori Miller, who'd received it from Susan, that he has had a procedure, which some of you may know of, the Whipple procedure, which is a pretty drastic 7-hour operation on the duodenum, et cetera, for pancreatic cancer. They feel it was successful. He will be having chemotherapy, and I believe this was about within the last 4 days that the operation happened. So I wanted to bring you an update. So our thoughts are with him, of course. Thank you.
February is birthday month. February is birthday month in our family, and we had 5 birthdays, 3 grandchildren, and my daughter and my son-in-law, all this month, and we're very grateful. My oldest grandson's birthday actually is today.
I have 2 more. First one's from Dave Steele. Eileen had major back surgery last week and is recuperating at the Rehabilitation Hospital of Southern New Mexico. She's expected to be there until about March 10th. Please contact Dave if you wish to visit, as Eileen's PT schedule is a busy one. And this one's me. I'd like to pay homage to our former president, Jimmy Carter, who is in hospice now. His presidency was exemplary, but I think his post-political years were his best as he promoted peace, service, and love. I light this candle for the joys and sorrows expressed today and for those you hold in your hearts.
I have always thought of prayer as a means of communication, and prayer as praying with, not for, not asking for something, but as an act of solidarity, as an act of communication. There's a lot going on in the world right now. We just marked the end of the first year of the war in Ukraine, which is not the only war going on right now, not the only conflict. You know, we have massive earthquakes in Turkey, another train derailment. And so I thought today perhaps we might take a few moments and pray with those people who are in pain, who are in suffering, who have lost their homes, whose lives have been irretrievably changed, and just send them our love and our support. And I think prayer can change things. I don't know how, but I think it does. So let's just take a few minutes to close our eyes and rest in prayer and pray with all of those who need our love and our support. Beautiful. Thank you. So, love and rockets. Some of you might know of the graphic novels by the same title by the brothers Hernandez, with their lesbian heroines and their punk sci-fi aesthetics. And it's a great title, and one that links together a number of things I'll be talking about today. So I couldn't resist using it, but I got to give credit where credit is due. As Unitarian Universalists, we tend to have complicated theological roots. Mine are an example. There's a strong Taoist streak flavored with lots of Buddhism. I spent many years immersed in indigenous thinking and ceremony. Philosophically, I'm pretty deeply grounded in the Enlightenment, and I'm definitely in the non-theist camp, although I have been known to invoke various deities in times of stress. But upon closer examination, it turns out I also have deep theological roots in speculative fiction. You could even say that some of my sacred texts are novels from that genre. Well, why not? Religion and possible futures are, and still are, deeply intertwined in many of these writings. In Stranger in a Strange Land, Robert Heinlein imagined a religion founded by an earthling raised by Martians on Mars. The novel's surprisingly sympathetic towards all forms of religion, while retaining a critical eye towards them. There's Dune by Frank Herbert. On the world of Arrakis, the local religion is a mystical fusion of Zen and Sunni Islam. The dominant religious text of the Imperium is something called the Orange Catholic Bible. And the religious sisterhood of the Bene Gesserit manipulate religions for their own ends, ends whose fulfillment will take generations. There are Ursula K. Le Guin's novels and stories with deep ecological and mythical roots running through them. Octavia Butler's explorations of race and gender and sexuality. Her novel Kindred is now on Hulu, first season. I highly recommend it. Robert Silverberg's dark psychedelic treatment of colonialism in Downward to the Earth, and the list goes on. Religion, society, and culture are all examined through various critical lenses. And we could dismiss these as works of mere fiction, but are they any less true than some of our religious texts? I think of these stories as representing a huge number of thought experiments. And I use the word experiments very deliberately. These stories have rules. They take place in natural universes. And while they may imagine things like faster than light travel or new power sources or alien races, there is no magic or supernatural forces in them. And like all good experiments, they ask the question, what if? And so I believe that these stories and others like them can also be seen as sources of our living tradition, as part of the lineage of humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason, the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. Because this is one of the gifts of our UU heritage, that we are not bound to a single set of sources or a single book or any dogma. As the African Roman playwright Terence once said, I am human, and nothing human is alien to me. And through speculative fiction, we have a bigger vision of what it means to be human and the possibilities of being human. Because without the ability to imagine a future different from the present, without the ability to bring critical thinking to bear on every human endeavor, we would be bound by the past, unable to change. We stand on the side of love. We speak of creating beloved community. We sing that love will guide us. And that's all very well and good, but we need rockets too. And I use rockets as a symbol that stands not just for reason and critical thinking, but that vision and imagination which sees different futures for the world. Love alone is not enough. Love without rockets goes nowhere. And I want to ground that thought in our humanist roots, which are themselves grounded in something older, the Enlightenment. Yeah, I know the Enlightenment's gotten a bad rap from any number of directions. Like all movements and philosophies, it has its good and bad points. But a lot of the accusations are not only unfounded by the historical evidence, but they arise from the misunderstanding of several key values held by the majority of Enlightenment thinkers. Happiness, reverence, hope, and reason. And from here on, I'm going to be quoting and drawing from and referring to a book, Moral Clarity by Susan Neiman. One of the critical achievements of the Enlightenment was to redefine the concept of evil. Prior to the Enlightenment, all evil and the human suffering that resulted from it was seen as ultimately resting in God's hands. If you suffered, it must have been because you had sinned or were innately immoral. Likewise, if you were healthy and prosperous, it was because you were good and virtuous. But the Enlightenment separated physical evil from moral evil, and in doing so, disentangled happiness from virtue. And once this separation occurred, we could say that sometimes bad things happen to good people, or good things happen to bad people. And that everyone ultimately has a right to pursue happiness. And this is in the midst of an existing social order with its inequalities and injustices. And that social order founded on this new concept that happiness was a human right and not dispensation from God. This critique of traditional religion is one that brings a holy reverence for the human condition into the world, the inherent worth and dignity of a human being. The Enlightenment took aim at traditional religion for a couple of reasons. Most Enlightenment thinkers were deeply reverent, and reverence was an integral part of the Enlightenment perspective. At the time, church authority was deeply entwined with that of the political establishment. It was pretty corrupt. And it was supported by webs of superstition and deliberately fostered ignorance. To these thinkers, the social order was a brutal, hypocritical, and immoral one that held human nature to be incapable of virtue or possess any ability to change or progress, and this order was aided and abetted by religion. And the hypocrisy of this relationship was part of the Enlightenment's issue with the religion. Neiman writes, the Enlightenment was making an argument not about the truth or the probability of religion, but something far more striking. Traditional religion is immoral. The second objection they had to traditional religion is perhaps more surprising than the first. In picturing God without glory, humankind without honor, traditional religion was itself irreverent. A God who could be bribed by good behavior was no different than a God who sent rain to nourish the crops in return for a sacrificed bull. The Enlightenment thinkers felt that the idea of God as a vain and brutal tyrant whose favors could be petitioned through certain supplicating behavior turned humanity into either helpless children or vicious criminals. The Enlightenment sought to reduce human fear and ignorance so that something greater could flourish. And religion seemed to them to foster fear and to feed on it, and as a result, do violence to both human nature and God's nature, thus destroying the dignity of both. Because without this dignity, there can be no reverence for either God or humanity. And in response, they had what can only be called the revelation of deism, a natural religion based on reason and nature. Getting a little dry here. Natural religion based on reason and nature, stripped of doctrine, with common denominators based on truths accessible to everyone, not just the priests and the elites. Deism expressed awe and wonder at the marvels being revealed by the new sciences, and in doing so, demonstrated proof of God's existence in a way that honored him without demeaning humanity. To quote Neiman, the Enlightenment denied piety to make room for reverence. If piety is a matter of fear and trembling, reverence is a matter of awe and wonder. Indeed, Enlightenment thinkers held a great deal to be worthy of reverence, and they were irreverent only in attacking a false and devious piety. And it was called the Enlightenment for a reason, which is that it arose from darkness and cast light in the darkness. And this was not just the darkness of Europe in the preceding centuries, with its brutal religious wars, poverty, injustice, superstition, and ignorance, but also the darkness of the prevalent church view at the time, that humans are all naturally evil, born in sin. Enlightenment thinkers, while keenly aware of the darker side of human nature, felt otherwise. Rousseau, for example, thought that humans were not born in original sin. Voltaire felt the same way, stating that man is not born evil, he becomes evil. And neither of these men were looking to defend the view that humans are naturally good, but rather to disavow the Christian view of the time that humans were naturally evil. And this view of human nature opened up the possibility for hope to flourish. Because if we are naturally good nor naturally evil, but hold the potential for either, it gives us hope because we're not trapped by our nature. We can make choices. And this means that progress is possible, though not guaranteed. And this was hope, and it was a bright light in both the real and metaphysical darkness of their world. Reason is perhaps the value most central to the Enlightenment. It's probably the most misunderstood in our modern viewpoint. And so it's important then to discern exactly what reason meant to these thinkers so we can begin to reclaim its true meaning. Very simply put, they desired that the world made sense, that the world was a reasonable place, and that the reasons for things made sense. They knew that reason had its limits, and that an unreasonable, rigid rationalism was both overweening and authoritarian. Because the Enlightenment was never opposed to passion or sentiment. Voltaire called the passions the principal source of order we see today in the world. And they rejected the dualism that pitted reason against emotion because they ultimately saw humans as complex beings who were moved by both. And as the new sciences revealed more of the mystery of the natural world, Enlightenment Enlightenment thinkers saw reason, as they defined it, to be woven throughout nature. The Enlightenment saw reason as being allied with passion and nature, yet standing firmly against the old authorities that ruled all the domains of life with an iron hand. In a world dominated by authority based on revelation and superstition, fanaticism and inherited privilege, reason was the key to freedom because it allowed regular people to discern truth for themselves. Immanuel Kant recognized that reason cannot be a fact about the world, but it is a demand on it. For everything that happens, find the reason why it happened this way rather than that. It is reason that allows us to go beyond whatever experience we are given and allows us to think, this could have been otherwise. Why is it just like this? The actual is given to us, but it takes reason to conceive the possible. And without that capacity, we couldn't begin to ask why something is the way it is or imagine that it might be better. And these abilities form both the basis of scientific inquiry and social justice. And they're so fundamental that we can hardly imagine functioning without them, and we have come to take them for granted. Reason is what allows us to imagine new possibilities individually and collectively, to be able to conceive of a world other than the one we have always inhabited. So much of what we value and hold as just the way things are in our modern lives has come about through this imperative. So yes, our Universalist roots are steeped in love and universal salvation, but our Unitarian roots run deep in the Enlightenment, in reason, and the modernity and humanism that arose from that. We've long been the home of dissenters and freethinkers, scientists and visionaries, those who asked why, who were not satisfied with the answers, who kept asking questions and never stopped, those who reasoned that there could be a better world. But love alone is not enough, and reason alone is not enough. Love and reason need each other, because only together can they transform the world. And to forget this is to forget our heritage, and forget the struggle and sacrifice of those who came before us. Let us continue to reason together, to make sense of the world together, to change the world together, and build even better rockets for our love. May it be so.
The operation and outreach of our church needs your input and your contributions. This is the perfect time to think about what you can give back. In a moment, the greeters will pass among you with the offering baskets. Please give generously. But before they do that, I should remind you that we support organizations identified by the Social Justice Committee with our Change for Change program. This quarter's recipient for the Change for Change donations is Action Program for Animals, or APA. You can give to APA by putting your change in the basket or by writing Change for Change on the note line of your check. Once again, please give generously. You know that Burt Bacharach just passed, right? Please rise in body or spirit to sing All of Us Are Loved with the choir. Is that going to be up there? Yes, okay.
I invite you to hang around after the postlude for a benediction, hand-holding benediction that we do together, something I like to do in my services. Our closing words come to us from Ralph Waldo Emerson, written in 1836. Man is conscious of a universal soul within or behind his individual life, wherein, as in a firmament, the natures of justice, truth, love, freedom arise and shine. This universal soul he calls reason. It is not mine or thine nor his, but we are its. We are its property and people. And the blue sky in which the private earth is buried, the sky with its eternal calm and full of everlasting orbs, is the type of reason. That which intellectually considered we call reason, but considered in relation to nature we call spirit. Spirit is the creator. Spirit has life in itself.
Please join me in saying the words to extinguish the flame. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you to the choir. It's so nice to be where there's music again. I've been on Zoom too long. What else should have to rise and join hands as you come to the music? And this is a call and response, so if you'll repeat after me. May love and skill guide our hands.
May love and skill guide our hands.
May love and courage fill our hearts.
May love and courage fill our hearts.
May love and wisdom light our minds.
May love and wisdom light our minds.
May love and reason walk with us and among us.
May love and reason walk with us and among us.
As we live our lives.
As we live our lives.
And work to heal our world.
And work to heal our world.
Amen, amen, shalom, and blessed be.
Amen, amen, shalom, and blessed be.
May it be so.
May it be so.
Go in peace.